Grab your trench coats and red string because today we are cracking open a 4,000-year-old cold case. We're taking the ancient book of Genesis and basically treating it like a sprawling, ancient witness statement. We're going to take the famous story of Abraham, set the theology aside for a minute, and cross-reference his family's claims against hard, peer-reviewed archaeological data. Think of it like a historical detective investigation. We are tracking down the literal physical receipts from the Middle Bronze Age.
Okay, so let's set some ground rules before we get into the weeds. We're playing historical detectives here. Our methodology is strict. We are isolating the major claims in the patriarchal narrative and checking them against the physical dirt and the epigraphic record, meaning the actual ancient writings. We're only looking at primary excavation reports, translated cuneiform clay tablets, and ruined city foundations. We just want to see exactly what holds up, what looks like a later edit, and what simply can't be verified.
Let's set the stage. We are looking squarely at the Middle Bronze Age. So picture this, around 2100 BCE, you had this massive, centralized superpower called the Third Empire. But right around 2004 BCE, that entire empire just totally collapses. It completely fragments. And in the chaos, you get these massive migrations of pastoralists, the Amorites, moving in from the Syrian steppe. This period of wildly shifting power, right between 1900 and 1700 BCE, well, that's exactly where the cultural backdrop of our Genesis witness statement is set.
Back in the 1920s, an archaeologist named Sir Leonard Woolley basically unearthed an ancient New York City in southern Iraq, a site called Tel El Mukayyar. And guys, this wasn't some dusty middle-of-nowhere outpost. It was dominated by massive ziggurat. But more importantly for our investigation, Woolley excavated the actual residential neighborhoods dating right to our Middle Bronze Age window. It paints this vivid picture of a bustling, densely packed urban environment. People lived in solid, two-story baked brick homes, and crucially, kind of creepy but fascinating, they buried their dead in vaulted brick tombs directly beneath their living room floors. The culture here was incredibly advanced.
But we do have a geographical discrepancy in our case file. The biblical text calls the starting point Ur of the Chaldeans. Here's the catch though. Historians universally agree the Chaldean tribes didn't actually arrive in Mesopotamia until nearly 1,000 years later. It's a classic anachronism. Later scribes clearly added of the Chaldeans so their contemporary audience actually knew what region they were talking about. Because of this, there's a pretty big debate. Southern Ur is a proven metropolis, sure, but traveling from there to Canaan via the city of Haran, that is a massive, highly illogical detour. The alternative is the Northern Ur theory, a city called Urfa, which is geographically right next to Haran, aligning perfectly with the documented migration routes. The exact location is debated, but a major city named Ur existing in the region, that's a proven fact.
So the text claims Abraham was a tent-dwelling nomad, right? But it also says he was incredibly wealthy, legally buying land and negotiating with regional kings. Does a lifestyle like that actually exist in the historical record? Well, yes, it absolutely does. Sociologists call it enclosed nomadism. Actually, scratch that, think of them more like ancient ranchers. These weren't isolated wanderers deep in the desert, they moved seasonally between established urban centers and the open steppe. It was a dimorphic society, meaning they literally lived in two different worlds simultaneously. We have the Mary Tablets, an archive of over 3,000 royal letters that explicitly document Amorite tribes doing exactly this. They managed massive herds, lived in tents, but were deeply, deeply integrated into city politics.
Let's take a look at a visual receipt. 37 represents the exact head count of an Asiatic trader caravan painted on the wall of a tomb in Egypt, dating all the way back to 1890 BCE.
That tomb painting shows these 37 traders wearing multicolored tunics, hauling their goods into Egypt. And you know what they're riding? Donkeys. The Genesis text heavily features donkeys for transport, which is honestly a massive historical receipt. Think about it. If the text was just totally invented centuries later during the Iron Age, they almost certainly would have featured camels, since those were the main mode of transport by then. But no, the text's overwhelming, accurate reliance on donkey caravans perfectly mirrors the actual economic reality of the early 2nd millennium BCE.
The names of Abraham's family aren't just made-up filler. When archaeologists started translating administrative cuneiform receipts from Mari and Ebla, they found exact linguistic equivalents. Names like Nahor, Serug, and Terah, they aren't just authentic Amorite names from the period, they literally show up as actual towns in the valley near Haran. The author didn't just pull these names out of thin air, they are deeply rooted in the highly specific geography and culture of northern Mesopotamia during the Bronze Age.
Then we have the family drama. The text details some intense surrogate motherhood situations, like Sarah giving her handmaid Hagar to Abraham to produce an heir. To a modern reader, that sounds like a wild myth. But guess what? That exact legal protocol for a barren wife providing a handmaid to her husband is codified ancient law. It comes straight from the Code of Hammurabi, written in the 18th century BCE. We even have marriage contracts from around 2000 BCE mandating this exact practice. So the text isn't a myth. It's a remarkably precise reflection of Middle Bronze Age legal codes.
And it gets even more specific. There's this super strange story in the text where Rachel steals her father's household idols, the teraphim, when they're fleeing. Why on earth would she risk her life for some little statues? Well, clay tablets discovered at Newsy, dating to the 15th century BCE, crack the code. According to those legal documents, possessing the family's household gods legally transferred family leadership and the estate's inheritance. She wasn't just stealing religious trinkets, she was literally securing her husband's legal claim to the entire family wealth.
So the crucial point here is that we have to be objective. Archaeology cannot, and honestly probably will never, find a tent peg with Abraham's name carved into it. We just can't prove the existence of one specific individual from a nomadic family 4,000 years ago. And we know for a fact that later scribes updated the text, adding geographic markers like "of the Chaldees," so their contemporary readers knew where these stories took place. But, and this is a huge but, the underlying cultural memory preserved beneath those later edits is incredibly, almost shockingly accurate.
Let's run through our final evidence matrix. The claim that they navigated through fortified Canaanite city-states, archaeology firmly demonstrates this with massive Middle Bronze Age walls. The claim that they operated vast trade networks using donkeys, strongly supported by contemporary Egyptian tomb art and old Assyrian caravan records. The claim of Chaldean origins cannot verify, as we know it's a later scribal update. But the adoption laws, the surrogacy codes, the Amorite town names, the evidence absolutely demonstrates a perfect match with the early 2nd millennium BCE.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending question. The general scholarly consensus is that Genesis was compiled and edited centuries after these events supposedly took place, yet it flawlessly preserves highly specific, obscure Bronze Age legal codes, nomadic caravan routes, and Amorite names that were lost to the sand until archaeologists dug up the clay tablets thousands of years later. If a text can hold on to that level of granular detail across centuries of oral tradition, what does that reveal about the sheer durability of human memory? It makes you wonder what other historical receipts are still buried out there, just waiting for someone to string the clues together.
What the Fact? Follow for more.